Part 19. Shocking. She came back with a smaller version of the boss. Author, and knows. Chapter 181. Chapter 181 Don't Leave Me. Goosey Eye has always been a bit yandere, and she has shown this since she was a child. She always has a bad face, and she can die with you if she is ruthless. You can tell by the ferocity in her fight with Goochawiyun. When she grew up, she hid it deeply because there was no one in the world she was attached to. After her 18th birthday, with Guziu, her life experience was exposed, and with the Zhang family protecting her, the yandere in her was hidden even deeper. She was stimulated tonight and was completely exposed in front of Lu Ziwen. Goosey Eye stood up, took a step back, turned around and wanted to leave, but felt the world spinning and her eyes going black. The moment she fell, Lu Ziwen reached out to catch her and held her in his arms. He looked at the unconscious Goosey Eye, his eyebrows furrowed. Under the light, Goosey's face was as white as paper, without any blood. His thick eyelashes were like small fans, covering his face. He was fragile and pitiful, not at all fresh. The madness that bites him. He picked up Goosey Eye and walked out. Li Zhang saw this and followed him. Lu Ziwen said calmly, "You don't have to follow." Lu Ziwen hugged Goosey Eye and put him on the passenger seat. The phone rang just in time. Guziu called, "I can't find my mother." I'm sending her back." "Oh." Guziu frowned. He was too busy tonight and had been meeting with Chen Liangdong. When he realized that Goosey Eye was not at home, it was already 1 o'clock and there was no mobile phone signal. He called Lu Ziwen immediately. "It turned out that I went to look for my dad, but there was no signal on my phone." "Was it turned off?" Guziu saw Lu Ziwen's car parked at the door. He went downstairs and opened the door. When he saw Lu Ziwen holding Goosey Eye, his face changed slightly. "What's wrong, Mom?" "Asleep," Lu Ziwen said calmly, carrying Goosey Eye into the house, going upstairs and putting her on the bed. Guziu's face was expressionless. This was clearly a loss of consciousness, not falling asleep. Lu Ziwen pulled the quilt to cover her and glanced at Guziu. "When she wakes up, you can ask her." Well, Guziu didn't ask much. When Lu Ziwen was standing on the second floor, he saw the laboratory on the second floor below. His eyebrows jumped and he went down to the second floor below. Guziu asked, "What are you doing?" The second floor below is very large, with a construction area of 300 square meters. In addition to the study and laboratory, there is indeed a dimly lit room. Lu Ziwen saw handcuffs and chains on the wall. Goosey Eye wasn't kidding, she was serious. Guziu followed him and naturally saw the handcuffs and chains. Guziu thought for a moment and said, "Mom is doing experiments and needs living animals. This is the place where living animals are kept. The use of this living creature is very spiritual." Lu Ziwen looked at Guziu, whose peach blossom eyes resembled his own and looked innocent. "Go to bed early and don't stay up late." After Lu Ziwen finished speaking, he left Lanshan Villa. In the hospital, Pei Chuying was wearing a hospital gown and looking at her phone with a sinister look. It was an email. She looked away from the phone screen and remembered the scene on the cruise ship. Lu Ziwen dove into the sea and rescued her and Goosey Eye. Pei Chuying accidentally learned about Lu Ziwen's superpower a few years ago and was very surprised. She was pleasantly surprised that Lu Ziwen came to her when she was in danger. Third Master. Her wet long hair was draped behind her shoulders, and her water-stained skirt clung to her body. She looked and mature. She wanted to get a hug for the rest of her life, but as soon as her fingertips touched Lu Ziwen, he grabbed her by the neck and picked her up like this. Third Master grabbed her neck and lifted her up. Pei Chuying's legs were off the ground, suffocating until her face turned red. Third Master." He walked to the side of the boat and carried her on the sea. When Pei Chuying lowered her head, she saw the bottomless ocean. She panicked and said, "Third Master, I am Chuying." Lu Ziwen looked at her indifferently. A bright moon in the night sky fell in his eyes, soaked with coldness. "Pei Chuying, who allowed you to touch her?" "Third Master." Pei Chuying's neck hurt terribly. She held Lu Ziwen's hand tightly with both hands, hoping that he would let go, but she couldn't shake it. Third Master chuckled lightly. Pei Chuying had never seen Third Master's smile before. How could he say that smile? Unlike the Third Master, who is presumptuous, demonic, and flamboyant, more like Lu Ziwen, do you like to threaten people so much? Pei Chuying felt the murderous aura on the Third Master's body. You are not the Third Master, you are Lu Ziwen. Third Master would not treat her like this, nor would he smile like this. If there is a next time, I will kill you, the Third Master said coldly, and let go of his hand. Pei Chuying screamed and fell into the sea. Her bodyguards also heard the noise and came out. The Third Master was already holding Gu Ci. Leaving the cruise ship, Pei Chuying was soaked in the cold sea water. It was so cold that it was biting. When he was rescued, he was shaking like a fallen leaf. When Pei Chuying woke up from the memories, he was still frightened. At that moment, Lu Ziwen really wanted to kill her. That was not the Third Master, but Lu Ziwen. The Third Master would not treat her so cruelly. "Third Master, it's not you," Pei Chuying thought fiercely, "it must not be you." When Gu Ci woke up, her head still hurt, her body was a little cold, and she had a cold. Gu Ziu took her temperature, which was 39 degrees, a high fever. There were antipyretics and antipyretic injections at home. Gu Ci gave herself an injection without expression. Gu Ziu ordered a piece of preserved egg and lean meat porridge. Gu Ci had no classes in the morning and could rest at home. "Ziu, go to class. I'm taking leave at home to take care of my mother." Gu Ziu hoped to be with her when she was sick. Gu Ci shook her head gently. "My mother took a fever-reducing injection and wants to sleep. Don't worry, I can take care of myself." "Mother." "Good." Gu Ziu put the other mobile phone on the bedside table. "Okay, if anything happens, Mom, remember to call me." "Good." Gu Ziu had full classes every day and had a heavy workload. During class, he absent-mindedly watched the surveillance camera. When he found Lu Ziwen coming, he was relieved. It was a cold autumn night and the sea water was cold. Gu Ci fell into the water and caught a cold. She was greatly stimulated and her emotions fluctuated. She fell into a nightmare during the high fever. The memories of her previous life tortured her body and mind over and over again when she was weak. She cried and shouted, missing Lu Ziwen crazily, but no one responded. There was a cage in the nightmare that trapped her. Someone was calling her name, and it was so familiar that it broke her heart. In the dark cage, she heard a familiar and longing voice. The person she loved was back. "Lu Ziwen, don't leave me, Lu Ziwen." After she woke up with tears on her face, Lu Ziwen sat beside her bed, wiping her tears, his eyes full of heartache. Gu Ci suddenly sat up and hugged him. She was like a drowning person holding on to the last piece of driftwood. "Have a nightmare?" Gu Ci shook her head. It was not a nightmare, it was something that had happened before. She didn't dare to think about it. She leaned weakly on his shoulder. Lu Ziwen touched her neck and felt a thin layer of sweat and a hot temperature. She was so uncomfortable. She had nightmares and kept shouting his name. End of this chapter. Shocking. She came back with a smaller version of the boss. Author, and knows. Chapter 182. Chapter 182. No one chose him. He pulled the quilt and wrapped it around her. The weather was getting colder, but the air conditioner was not turned on in the room. She felt more uncomfortable when it was cold or hot. This was the second time she had a fever in just a few months. Gu Si lay on his shoulder and fell asleep again. When she woke up again, it was already 10 o'clock. Lu Ziwen was sitting on the bay window, wrapped in a light gray scarf, stretching his legs and reading a book. The sun was setting. It looked incredibly good on him. Lu Ziwen, when did you come? Lu Ziwen closed the book. Gu Si had already propped herself up. The high fever had subsided. Except for some exhaustion, she was fine. Lu Ziwen came over and looked at her condescendingly. I wonder if it was because of the backlight, but his expression looked very gloomy. Quiet. Gu Si's scalp tingled as she thought of Third Master's words. Lu Ziwen now had Third Master's memory. He could see clearly when she hugged Third Master and kissed him. Are you hungry? Gu Si was not hungry, but nodded. Lu Ziwen said, let's go out to eat. After she freshened up, she packed up the textbooks for the afternoon class and went out with Lu Ziwen. Before Lu Ziwen went out, he took a special look at the laboratory downstairs and the door next to it. Gu Si clenched her fists, very nervous, afraid that Lu Ziwen would ask, is this the cage you are going to lock me in? After she recovered from the excitement last night, she realized what an unforgivable sin she had committed, and actually told Lu Ziwen in advance how perverted and crazy she was. What should he do if he is frightened? Fortunately, Lu Ziwen didn't say anything and the two of them went out together. Gu Si had classes in the afternoon. After the two left the villa, they walked to a street in University Town, which was next door. Gu Si was 2 steps behind Lu Ziwen, just like a well-behaved little girl following her brother, without the morbidity and domineering behavior of last night at all. Lu Ziwen glanced at her from the corner of his eyes. Very well behaved and very quiet. Want to buy a mobile phone? Her mobile phone fell into the sea and fell to the bottom of the sea. Gu Si nodded. Lu Ziwen accompanied her to the store, bought a new mobile phone, and applied for a new card. The number did not change. Both of them wore masks, but they couldn't hide their beautiful looks, and they frequently attracted attention. After the mobile phone was set up, Gu Si connected to the internet and downloaded commonly used software. Lu Ziwen took her to a small shop for dinner. Gu Si sat very obediently. Every time Lu Ziwen looked over, she showed a gentle smile like a little white rabbit, trying to wash it away. Last night's image. He was very quiet and did not smile when he was eating. Gu Si had the illusion that the person sitting next to her was the Third Master, not Lu Ziwen. Gu Si was also confused. Was it the Third Master? She didn't dare to ask, but she also knew that it wasn't the case. But there is a little bit of the Third Master. After dinner, the two of them were walking on a street in the University Town when Gu Si called, Mom, has your fever gone? Well, the fever is gone, you can go to the cafeteria to eat, I have already eaten. Well, I'll wait for you to go home with you in the afternoon. Good. Gu Si hung up the phone, and Gu Si looked at Lu Ziwen carefully, her palms so nervous that they were sweating. Lu Ziwen glanced at the milk tea shop and asked her, do you want milk tea? Gu Si nodded. Lu Ziwen bought a cup of milk tea and handed it to her. Gu Si thought of their date that day and they were also buying milk tea. Gu Si held the milk tea and followed him obediently. Lu Ziwen stopped under a ginkgo tree. Gu Si also stopped and looked at him uneasily. Gu Si, look at me, Lu Ziwen asked, can you tell clearly who is standing in front of you? Gu Si's heart skipped a beat. This was like a proposition. She nodded, it's you. Really? Lu Ziwen's face was expressionless and his eyes were cold, I am the Third Master. Gu Si looked up at him, the sun dappled on her face. Gu Si shook her head, you are Lu Ziwen. The Third Master is also called Lu Ziwen. Gu Si said paranoidly, you are Lu Ziwen. Lu Ziwen sneered, seeming to be mocking, but also curious, which Lu Ziwen is it? Gu Si had no choice but to say, it's Lu Ziwen during the day. How do you tell us apart? Goosey Eye always felt that this topic was dangerous, but she couldn't escape it. She hugged the book and said uneasily, "You have a cold face and your temperament is not like the third master. No matter how much the third master imitates your smile, it still doesn't have your charm." Lu Ziwen untied his scarf and tilted his head, revealing the teeth marks on his neck. He asked Goosey Eye, "When you bit him, you knew it was the third master, right?" Goosey Eye looked at the marks left by her bite and felt a secret pleasure. She marked Lu Ziwen's body with her own label. Her blood was excited and she wanted to take another bite. Goosey Eye licked her lips unconsciously and nodded. "You can tell us apart at a glance, but you are still deceiving yourself. We are the same person, Goosey Eye. If there is still a ray of soul in this body, do you love him too?" The color of Goosey's blood faded, and his words were exactly the same as the third master asked, "Do you like this body, or do you like the owner of this body?" She hurriedly grabbed Lu Ziwen's hand. "Third brother, please listen to my explanation. I. Goosey Eye couldn't explain her feelings clearly. The experience of her previous life was choked in her throat and she couldn't tell her. She was so nervous that sweat was pouring from her forehead. Lu Ziwen's face was extremely calm. "You tell me, I'll listen." The last time he knew that she also loved the third master, he was furious and had a cold war with her, wishing that he and the third master would die together. But now, his face was calm, and Goosey Eye panicked. "Third brother, don't do this." Goosey Eye felt aggrieved and sad. "I'll be scared." "What are you afraid of?" Lu Ziwen sneered. "When you fell into the sea and drowned, do you know how scared I was? Do you know how powerless I was?" This week, he had the third master's perspective and knew a lot about the third master. Goosey Eye did not lie to him. Except for one phone call at night, she never appeared in front of the third master. He was happy and satisfied. Goosey Eye really didn't lie to him. But in fact, it was the third master who was alienating Goosey Eye and did not see Goosey Eye. If not, Goosey Eye would treat the third master the same as he did to him. Lu Ziwen believed that Goosey Eye loved him. But Goosey Eye also loves the third master. Lu Ziwen heard clearly when Goosey Eye was in the third master's arms and said she wanted to lock him up. She was very crazy. This strong feeling was given to her by the third master. He manages the Lu Group, the global center, and also handles Black Hawk's internal affairs in an orderly manner. If there is a time difference between racing, he can also race on my behalf. If he is willing, he can cry with you, laugh with you, and go on dates with you. Accompanying you to the ends of the earth. What do you want me to do? Lu Ziwen felt sad when he said this. Lu Ziyi wants a son to inherit the family business, and hopes that he can take care of the Lu family's financial affairs. I don't think so in his eyes. An unskilled racing driver, even though I have won countless championships for the country, Sanyi is still his most desired and proud son. He doesn't need me, and neither do you. When you fell into the sea, you were thinking of Sanyi. Not me. He can do everything I can do, so what should I do? Goosey Eye, is it the best choice for me to disappear? Moi. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Shocking. She came back with a smaller version of the boss. Author, and knows. Chapter 183. Chapter 183. Third Master and I, who do you choose? No, Goosey Eye shook her head decisively. I have never thought of it that way. He doesn't like you, so you look for comfort in me? Pretend that we are the same person, and you have his protection, as well as my company and love. Goosey Eye, you are so greedy. Goosey Eye was heartbroken and confused. They had the same memories of each other. They were obviously the same person. Why should he deny himself and let her deny it? I'm so ridiculous. I'm obviously heartbroken, but I still feel sorry for you because you're mentally unstable and can't stand the stimulation. I don't want to force you to make a choice. Lu Ziwen knew that he had failed miserably. The third master could do everything he could. But he can't do what third master can do. There is really no need for him to exist. His pride did not allow Gu Si to love him and the third master. I like you. I have liked you for many years, Lu Ziwen confessed in the autumn wind, but his voice was so sad. Gu Si was caught off guard, and tears burst into her eyes after receiving a confession. After 2 lifetimes, she finally heard a word of love, but it was like farewell. He wanted to give up on her, because she made him desperate and painful. When I was 3 years old, I had a split personality and lived physically with my third master. When he first appeared, I was very resistant, so the time he could appear was very short, and he didn't appear in the dark. This lasted until I was 8 years old. It finally became clear that I was Lu Ziwen during the day, and he was Lu Ziwen at night. I was in pain and rejection, but had no choice but to accept the fate. My dad thought I was sick and arranged for countless psychiatrists to torture me. One day, I don't know what Mr. San said, and the doctors suddenly disappeared. We lived in peace like this until I realized that I like you, but I don't even have the ability to control my body. What qualifications do I have to like you? If I'm with you and you find out that I'm mentally ill, what should I do? I don't want to see mercy in your eyes, so I stay away from you, avoid you, and just stay away from you. You. It just so happens that you hate me too, and we are fine, but you brought Guzio to me and forced your way into my life. I am happy but anxious. I am afraid that you will know the secret, but I also want you to know it paradoxically. After the secret, he still unswervingly chose me. There was a hint of pain in Lu Ziwen's eyes. If Lu Zi chose him, at least, someone would choose me. I didn't expect that you all chose him, and I brought shame on myself. It turns out that I am redundant. That person. When I first found out that you liked Mr. San, I was angry, jealous, and hating. There are billions of people in the world, why is it me? I can't escape this disease, and I can't change anything. I want the third master is dead, but I can't think of any way except death. He is like my shadow, following me all my life. I thought you couldn't tell who Lu Ziwen was, so you fell in love with 2 people, but it turns out you can tell the difference clearly. Lu Ziwen was proud and powerful. Ever since he was young, he had only hesitated when it came to Gu Si's emotions. I'm tired of this entanglement between 3 people. I don't want to know whether the third master likes you or hates you. Gu Si, I only want you to have one attitude. Who will you choose? A fallen leaf fell on Lu Ziwen with the autumn wind. His shoulders rose again with the wind and fell to the ground. If you choose me, don't see the third master in the future. Accept me who only has half the time. If you choose the third master, please, don't appear in front of me again in the future. Gu Si looked at him distressedly. The knife finally came. Ever since Lu Ziwen took her to Bodhi Mountain, she had a hunch that Lu Ziwen had made a decision in his heart, but he just wanted to slowly ask her to make a decision. Pei Chuying kidnapped her, and the third master appeared again. He witnessed her madness. Finally stepped on his bottom line. Lu Ziwen said, I will never accept my sweetheart. I love 2 people. No matter how insistent you are that we are the same person, I will not accept it. I am me, Lu Ziwen, not the third master. Gu Si looked at his retreating back and burst into tears. The piece of the was finally torn apart. They had to make a decision. Gu Si thought of that day in the garden, when Lu Ziwen fiercely declared war on the third master and asked him to stay away from her. He has always suppressed his emotions, suppressed his jealousy and madness, and tried his best to appear calm in front of her, fearing that she would be irritated. Even though he had broken his heart, he still left the last trace of tenderness to her. Gu Si was holding milk tea, squatting under the ginkgo tree, burying her head, her knees wet with tears. She felt sorry for Lu Ziwen, who had stripped her white, and she was also suffering from this relationship that was constantly being cut and messed up. After her rebirth, this was the first time she felt desperate. Pedestrians stopped and walked, looking back frequently. The shoulders of the girl under the ginkgo tree moved slightly, but she was so stubborn that she didn't want others to see her sad. People only thought about the lovelorn girl licking her wounds. The phone vibrated, and Lu Ziwen sent a text message. Lu Ziwen, I am going to Country F tomorrow for training before the game. I hope you can give me an answer after this game. Gu Si, okay. Gu Si skipped school in the afternoon and came to the hospital in despair. Dr. North was startled when he saw her expression and helped her sit down. Xiao Si, what's wrong? Who bullied you? There were tears on her eyelashes, like fragile ice flowers that would break into pieces at the slightest touch. Dr. North gently wiped away her tears. Gu Si was the most medically talented girl she had ever seen. One point makes sense, her mind is firm, and she is strong. Although she is a young girl, there is a story behind her eyes. Those eyes are those that have endured countless tortures and are still struggling to survive. Strong yet fragile, contradictory yet not abrupt. Who made her so heartbroken? Master, I'm so sad. Gu Si thought about Lu Ziwen's words over and over in her mind. She felt sorry for Lu Ziwen and the broken family in her previous life. After she was reborn, she sent Lu Shijia away, and Gu Chuiun was no longer a threat. She had changed her destiny, but at this moment she realized that her destiny had never changed, and she had not gotten rid of the nightmare of her previous life. She drew the ground as a prison and sealed herself in the cage, unable to escape. Dr. North held her in his arms tenderly and patted her shoulder. Thinking of the love story Gu Si told her, she sighed and said nothing, just soothed her gently. She was not Gu Si and could not empathize with her. She could see the pain in the girl's eyes. It will pass, Xiaosai, Dr. North said, all suffering will pass. Gu Si shook her head in pain. Unless she lost her memory, her suffering would never be over. She was like a broken person, her body moving forward but her soul staying in the same place. Are you willing to talk to Master? Gu Si has many things on her mind, and she is used to keeping them in her heart. End of this chapter. Shocking. She came back with a smaller version of the boss. Author, and knows. Chapter 184. Chapter 184. She is afraid of losing Lu Ziwen. She is a person who lacks the desire to share. She couldn't tell about this experience and emotion. She didn't simply fall in love with a dual personality Lu Ziwen. She still has heartache and obsessions that have never been healed in her previous life. Gu Si concealed the third master's superpower and Ziyu, and told her life as a story. She talked for 2 hours, intermittently, and Dr. North did not interrupt her. Dr. North's heart was in turmoil. It turned out that Xiaosai was a person who had lived a new life. No wonder, with superb clinical skills, there was always a sadness hidden in her eyes. No wonder Xiaosai knew that she was in prison. No wonder Xiaosai had some actions, like it was a subconscious reaction of someone who had been in prison. She had also wondered why Xiao Si was like this. Now, it all makes sense. She was once really Xiaosai's master. Dr. North knew it well but did not reveal it. Gu Si only talked about her and Lu Ziwen, but it was enough to make Dr. North feel distressed. Xiao Si always rubs her wrists when she sees her. So, is Xiao Si's hand disabled by her? Master, what should I do? Dr. North is an atheist and does not believe in cause and effect, reincarnation, rebirth, or time travel. However, Gu Si's emotions convinced her that this was a true story, not a dream of Gu Si's. Xiao Si, Master will not tell you how to choose. You have to follow your own heart. No one knows your choice except you, Dr. North said, but Xiao Ci, you have to learn to love yourself. To love others. Gu Ci looked at Dr. North in confusion. Only this look made Dr. North think that she was an 18-year-old girl. She hugged Gu Ci in distress. She never thought that Gu Ci would suffer so much sin. Those bad memories make you lose the ability to love yourself. Your person has returned to another life, but your heart is still in the sadness of the previous life. Dr. North said, let me ask you, if I don't love you, what would you do? A trace of cruelty flashed across Gu Ci's eyes. Lock him up. Make him unable to leave me for the rest of his life. Dr. North touched her face and said, you are hurting, not loving, Xiaosai. This is not a sign of loving someone. I know I'm sick, Gu Ci said. She was soberly watching herself sinking into madness. It's okay, Dr. North said with a chuckle, in this long life, no one has gone crazy once or twice. Don't blame yourself, don't feel inferior and suffer from yourself. The sufferings in the past have knocked you down, and it's not your fault. We don't want to keep other people's sins in our hearts, Xiaosai. Bring you back from the previous life and don't let her stay in the abyss alone, okay? Gu Ci burst into tears, as if she had shed all the tears she had suppressed in her previous life at once. Master, I can't get it back, Gu Ci cried loudly. What should I do? I can't get it back. Don't cry, baby, you cry so hard that Master's heart will break. Dr. North stroked her long hair gently. Thinking that he had broken her hand, Dr. North's eyes turned red. She was extremely. It is certain that she likes Gu Ci, and there is no way that she would just destroy her hand for no reason. Master will help you, Master will help you. After a hearty cry, Gu Ci fell asleep next to Dr. North. Dr. North looked at her sleeping face, with tears still hanging on her eyelashes. It is difficult for doctors to heal themselves. This has been the case since ancient times. Xiao Ci needs a psychiatrist. Too much obsession is a disease. Heart disease also needs a heart medicine doctor, and her best cure is also Lu Ziwen. Dr. North frowned and pulled Gu Ci's sleeve. There were no scars on her arms. She hesitated and opened her shirt. Sure enough, she saw some bruises and burns on her lower abdomen. They were almost all new injuries. There are similar scars on his thigh. When Gu Ci woke up, it was already late at night. Master, I lost my temper, she cried until she was exhausted and fell asleep. Are you feeling better? Gu Ci nodded. Strangely enough, things were still a mess and there was no solution, but she did feel lighter. How long have you had this nightmare? It's been a few months. She didn't dare to sleep deeply at night. Once she fell asleep, she would have nightmares. It would be better when she was in the world. She knew that Lu Ziwen was upstairs. After arriving at Lanshan Villa, she almost had nightmares every night. What about self-abuse? Gu Ci was startled and pulled the quilt to cover her legs. Suddenly she felt a little cold. She knew she couldn't hide it from Dr. North. It's always been there. I can't control myself. Dr. North looked at her, feeling extremely distressed. Xiao Ci, are there any people or things in this world that you are attached to? Gu Ci nodded, her eyes eager. I torture myself because I can't bear it. I'm afraid that it will get worse. The pain will wake me up. You need to see a psychiatrist, Dr. North said. Master is somewhat accomplished in this area. You come to me because you want to help yourself, right? Gu Ci nodded and did not deny it. Otherwise, she would not have said it. You have reached a dead end, Xiaosai, Dr. North said. What you have to do is to heal yourself and heal him. His situation is definitely not a dual personality. Once the dual personality appears, differentiation will start to fight. Fighting for control of the body, memory, life skills, and social skills will never be able to live in peace for more than 10 years. If I am not wrong, they must be the same person, but, why does this happen? I still don't understand. Third brother must make a choice for me, what should I do? Then you choose, what are you afraid of? Dr. North chuckled, choose whoever you want to choose, and then go cure him. Don't trap yourself in memories. You always feel that whoever you choose is lost. You won't lose anyone. Don't be afraid to make a choice. It doesn't matter if you make the wrong choice. We are constantly choosing in life, and no one always chooses the right one. Goosey I felt a sudden sense of enlightenment, as if the door that had been trapping her had quietly opened a crack, and light leaked in, and she saw hope. You are too afraid of losing Luziwan. Dr. North told the crux of the problem, you are saving yourself by moving away from Universal. You are trying to live a life without Luziwan. In fact, losing someone is not that terrible. You once lost him and went crazy because he was the only support in your heart. Without him, your world collapsed. But master, judging from your behavior in this life, besides him, you have other attachments, right? Goosey I nodded. Dr. North looked at Goosey I and said, Master, let me share a story with you. Perhaps you have heard that I once loved someone so much that I was willing to go through fire and water for him, and I was willing to get rid of Chen Gang for him. Before I fell in love with him, I didn't even think about resisting Chen Gang. Loving someone really gives you faith and strength. Later, I failed. I found that except for death, I couldn't get rid of Chen Gang. There was no result with my sweetheart. He had a bright future. What did I have? I would only bring misfortune to him, so I left without saying goodbye and cut off contact. I hid this love in my heart as a belief. Later, I got rid of it. Chen Gang then went to find him and found that the building was empty and the names were all fake. I was also desperate. I also thought ferociously that if one day I met him again, I would also lock him up and question him. Why did he lie to me? Why was everything false? One day, I secretly went to see little Cherry. She was 8 years old and was so beautiful. She lived carefree in the sun. All I had. The resentment has disappeared, I think. If one day little Cherry knows that I am her mother, I hope that in her eyes, her mother is a mother that she can be proud of, not a mother who is full of resentment and is beyond recognition. Goosey I had never heard of this story, and Dr. North rarely talked about her past. So, Sci-fi, treat the sufferings of the past as a calamity. Once you have gone through it, don't worry about it. Dr. North's voice was very powerful. Luziwan will love you, and you will get your wish, has a bright future. Goosey I hugged Dr. North and said, okay, I will work hard. If she doesn't love herself, how can she learn to love others? End of this chapter. Shocking. She came back with a smaller version of the boss. Author, and knows. Chapter 185. Chapter 185. Ji-soon, do you want to take a hot spring bath? When Zhang Junlin came out of the brightly lit Hualan Bank, he saw Ji Huan waiting on the roadside. Ji Huan was sitting in a sports car with a lazy posture, attracting everyone's attention. In recent months, Ji Xian has stood out in the financial circle of City A. He is young, handsome, and has outstanding abilities. He landed in the Black Hawk Asia department. Everyone in the financial circle is discussing this young vice president. Hualan and Black Eagle have recently collaborated on many projects and have frequent contacts. Almost all senior executives know him. Mr. Zhang, I'm really busy. I don't get off work until 9:30. Zhang Qiang followed him with his security team. Zhang Junlin turned sideways and said, you get off work first, don't follow. Yes. Zhang Junlin was still dressed like an urban elite, but Ji Xian was much more casual. He wore a V-neck short t-shirt, leather jacket, and jeans. He looked like a college student. When Zhang Junlin looked at his outfit, he felt familiar inexplicably and couldn't help but think. I took a few glances. Does it look good when I'm dressed like this? Ji Xian asked. Does it look familiar to you? It looks familiar, but I can't remember where I've seen it. After Ji Sun returned to China, he followed the local customs and wore three-piece suits. When working in the financial street, he would first show respect to others and then show respect to others. He was young and had an immature face, so he had to pay special attention to his clothes to suppress his identity. Did not go to work today. It's time to go to work. Ji Sun drove slowly. The rush hour had already passed. The traffic in Sitia was still worrying, and the viaducts were terribly congested. Ji Sun said, after returning to China, I always wear suits and leather shoes, which is a bit annoying. Change the style. This outfit was obviously inappropriate for working in the financial street. Zhang Junlin also remembered that Ji Sun rarely wore suits when he was abroad. An idea flashed and he suddenly remembered that this outfit looked familiar. It was the night when he and Ji Sun met again. Zhang Junlin's Adam's apple rolled and he glanced again. Ji Sun raised the corners of his lips with a smile, but not a smile. There was an ambiguous and dangerous atmosphere in the small carriage. What do you want from me? Zhang Junlin stopped recalling and changed the subject. Ji Sun chuckled and said, after get off work, I'll meet Mr. Zhang for a late night snack to repay you for saving my life. Where did the saving grace come from? That day you informed me to avoid the national security and came to pick me up. Isn't this a life-saving grace? Ji Sun's little pear dimples were looming, but Zhang Junlin saw that there was a layer of mist in his eyes. Ji Sun has a kind face and always greets people with a smile. He smiles when he is angry and happy. He can pretend to be a grandson and a father. He is flexible, and has an extraordinary IQ. When dealing with him, you must be very energetic. It takes a little effort, Zhang Junlin said indifferently. Looking out the window, he felt for the first time that the road blockage on the viaduct was annoying. Ji Sun's dress seemed to remind him of something happening, which made him very unhappy. That not a very pleasant memory. When the car arrived at the Hot Spring Hotel, late-night snacks had been prepared early. Zhang Junlin often visited the restaurant and everyone knew his taboos. Ji Sun was not used to it. He had to eat the same meal as him. 2 late-night snacks would not go against the river. To each his own. The heat in the room dissipated the coldness of late autumn. Ji Xian took off his coat and hung it on the shelf casually. The V-neck was wide open and the t-shirt was close-fitting. He looked very thin and handsome, not strong, but very powerful. Mr. Zhang has been working overtime very late recently. Does Hualien Bank have many projects? If I remember correctly, all the projects that should be busy have been completed. There are many things at the end of the year, Zhang Junlin said calmly. I understand, favors come and go. Ji Xian sipped his wine. Qiuan lost that batch of gold. Mr. Zhang is so well informed, can you give me some information? The indoor temperature was slightly higher. Zhang Junlin unbuttoned his cufflinks and rolled up his sleeves, revealing a nice wrist. The information about the National Security Bureau is so confidential. What information can I have to sell to you? Chen Liangdong himself is tracking down it. You want to know? Ask Ziyu. The baby's mouth is very tight and he can't ask anything, Ji Sun said with a smile. I also want to say that Mr. Zhang is well informed and may have some clues. After all, hundreds of kilograms disappear mysteriously at sea, and there will always be clues left behind. Zhang Junlin picked up a chopstick of beef and tasted it. It was a bit old. He put it on the plate with disgust. He said lightly, this batch of gold has a number. If it wants to be circulated, it needs to be reworked and distributed. It is very troublesome. You send it when people look at the gold black market and processing plants, there will always be clues. The black market and the processing factory have been monitored since early in the morning, Ji Xian said in frustration. I have been scolded by Chen Rishi 3 times. It is really unjust. He did business with the Jideo, stole gold, and scolded me. What you do? The first level of officialdom is overwhelming, Ji Xian said half-truthfully. It is not easy to make a living under his hands. Zhang Junlin poured a glass of wine and took a sip. The plum wine in late autumn tasted very good. Ji Sun's eyes never left Zhang Junlin's face from beginning to end. Brother, have mercy on me. Ji Sun's voice was so soft it was almost dripping. Really flexible and able to stretch. Zhang Junlin was amused by him. That short-lived smile made Ji Xian's ears turn red. He really liked seeing Zhang Junlin smile and wanted to get a printer to print his smile and hang it on the bedside. This matter is truthful at best. You take the opportunity to rise to the top and kill two birds with one stone. Why are you pretending to be a white rabbit? He is my immediate boss. If something happens to him, how do I get to the top? It's not a fatal accident. He just needs to push someone to take the blame. If Chen Rishi can be overthrown so easily, he and the third master don't have to worry about the layout. I thought about being disrupted midway. Lu Ziwen did not know that Chen Rishi was doing business with Jida. If he knew about it, it would only add fuel to the flames and tie Chen Rishi and Jida together, waiting for the right time to expose the matter. Chen Yaojin came out halfway. This was done so secretly that Ji Sun looked at Zhang Junlin, who was sitting opposite him. Brother, is that you? Hualan Bank must not want this batch of gold. It is troublesome and will only cause trouble. If Zhang Junlin takes away the gold, what will he do? Or maybe, he is too preoccupied. Ji Sun was not willing to believe that it was Zhang Junlin who did this. If Zhang Junlin did it, it means that he has been wrong all along. Which words of the person in front of him are true and which are false? Are the emotions in his eyes fake? No matter how much you take the blame for this matter, it's not your turn, Zhang Junlin said calmly. Pei Chuying has arrived in City A. She is more anxious than you. Those who were arrested were all Pei Chuying's people. Before she took office as a new official, her men made fatal mistakes, which damaged her prestige. If I were her, I would definitely take out this batch of gold and the Bank of Country. Ji Sun asked playfully, does Mr. Zhang know Pei Chuying? Hualan and Ji Dao have been working together for decades and are very familiar with each other. Zhang Junlin was not a glutton. He put down his chopsticks when he was 75% full. He lightly drank plum wine and dropped a bomb. There was an engagement. What did you say? Ji Sun sneered, his tone like a thin layer of ice. 10 years ago, my dad made this engagement with the Pei family. As soon as they made the verbal agreement and before the tokens were exchanged, something happened to Uncle Pei, and the engagement ended. Ji Sun's breathing tightened and relaxed. 10 years ago, you were almost an adult, and your family made a marriage contract. Do you have any objections? I don't care about marriage. Zhang Junlin's voice was so thin that it was ruthless, and he said meaningfully, it doesn't matter who you marry. It's the same for anyone you marry. Ji Xian smiled, try it? Zhang Junlin lowered his head, hiding the smile on his lips, as if he didn't see Ji Sun's sinister brows. Ji Huan was distracted by the fact that Zhang Junlin and Pei Chuying had an engagement. He stopped exploring the gold matter, and the conversation between the two dropped to a freezing point. Zhang Junlin loosened his tie, unbuttoned the top button with one hand, and asked Ji Sun with a smile. He was obviously so ascetic, but he was a little confused. Ji Xian, you're here, do you want to go to the hot springs? Ji Huan looked at him with a half-smile, Mr. Zhang is inviting me. Zhang Junlin drank the plum wine in one gulp. There was a thin layer of in his eyes behind the gold-rimmed glasses, which was very seductive. This is a relief. Ji Sun. Girls, there are 2,000 words in Little Theater in the group. Oh, big fat chapter. It's an extra update. Are you the girls who wrote the long review today? 9K words have been updated today. What you need to see when entering the group for verification. QQ group number, 5166111617. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Shocking. She came back with a smaller version of the boss. Author, and knows. Chapter 186. Chapter 186 Half-Sisters. Hospital. Gu Si comes to the hospital every day to see Dr. North. Lu Ziwen goes abroad for training and prepares for the game. The game day is on the weekend. Gu Si and Gu Ziu have bought tickets and are going to watch the game. Gu Si hopes that Lu Ziwen can adjust yourself to a good state. Although the nightmare situation has not improved, she has restrained her self-abuse impulse. In the past few days, she has not contacted either Lu Ziwen or the third master. They seem to have a tacit understanding, and no one said a word to her. She missed Lu Ziwen very much, and she often thought of Lu Ziwen seeking marriage under the Bodhi tree. That scene made her heart move and also made her sad. When she couldn't sleep, she flipped through the photo album to find his photo. See things and miss people. It's quite late. That's it for today, Dr. North said. We can't rush the treatment. Gu Si nodded and looked at the time. It was 10 o'clock in the night. Master, are you hungry? I'll go out with you to eat sour noodles. The sour noodles at the door are quite delicious. Okay, Dr. North was also a little greedy. The two of them were about to go out, but an uninvited guest came to visit. It was Pei Chuying. Gu Si did not expect to see Pei Chuying here, and Pei Chuying did not expect to be in North's ward. Met Gu Si. Sister. Pei Chuying lowered her head and called her sister. Gu Si's pupils tightened and she looked at Pei Chuying in shock and then at Dr. North. Dr. North and Pei Chuying's eyebrows are indeed somewhat similar. What do you want from me? Dr. North's attitude was cold. Pei Chuying glanced at Gu Si, hoping that Gu Si would understand and leave, but Gu Si didn't seem to understand. Dr. North said, Xiao Si is my direct disciple. If you have anything to say, just tell me. Pei Chuying suppressed the emotion in her eyes and nodded, Sister, give me Chen Geng's batch of gold. I have made my words very clear. Dr. North drank water and calmed down. Something happened to Ji Dao. I need this gold to save my life. My sister is useless with the gold. Why don't you sell it to me and I'll buy it for 3 times the price, Pei Chuying said in a sincere tone. It's this batch of gold again, Gu Si thought to herself, no wonder the master is well informed. It turns out that she is Pei Chuying's sister. The relationship between their sisters seems to be very cold. When I was tortured by Chen Gang, I begged you for help. The Pei family was at its peak, but they did not want to offend Chen Gang, and they even treated me as a pawn. The grudges were over, and the bridge returned to the bridge, and the road returned to the road. It has nothing to do with the Jai Da. Dr. North chuckled, Xiao Si, look at how interesting this world is. Gu Si also smiled, and with just a few words, he could already hear the whole story. Pei Chuying didn't mind Dr. North's ridicule. Sister, when I was young, I met my sister from a distance and gave her a pearl as a token of my affection. I cannot interfere with my father's decision. After my niece was born, I risked my life to help my sister and sent her away, and she is safe and sound so far. I have never said a word to her father, and I have also helped her avoid Chen Geng's pursuit. Pei Chuying's words not only showed her sister's respect and love for her sister, but also contained her past kindness. Favor is kindness, affection is affection, and there is no disrespect at all. Gu Si admires her very much. Chuying, you. Dr. North looked troubled, are you threatening me by mentioning little Cherry? That's not the intention. Pei Chuying's eyes were filled with tears. She was born in such a pitiful condition. Our sisters and little Cherry are the only ones left in the Pei family. We are connected by blood. I couldn't protect her in time, so how could I harm her? I was just desperate and wanted to sister, save my life. I have just inherited the Utah. If such a big thing happens, it will be difficult in the future if it is not settled. Please pity my sister. If it hadn't been for a confrontation with Pei Chuying on the cruise ship, Gu Si would have been killed. She was moved by what she said and said it sincerely. She didn't care about lowering her posture in front of her love rival. Dr. North relented. Seeing this, Pei Chuying stepped forward and hugged Dr. North. I have been thinking about my sister for so many years. I hope that one day, our sisters can be reunited. Okay, Dr. North closed his eyes, I'll give you the gold. Pei Chuying was overjoyed, thank you, sister. Dr. North said calmly, after I came to City A, I transported the gold to City A. If you really need help, just take it. Pei Chuying was moved to tears. I knew that my sister would take care of our sisterhood and would not leave her alone. Wait a minute, take the gold and give me the money. Definitely, Pei Chuying said happily, you will always be my sister. Pei Chuying glanced at Gu Si and left the ward. She didn't expect that Gu Si was actually her sister's personal apprentice, which was tricky. Master, are you and Pei Chuying biological sisters? Gu Si asked. Half-mother Dr. North said, I take my mother's surname, and I am an illegitimate daughter. Chuying just looked at you with quite hostile eyes. What's wrong? Do you have a problem? Did you see the marks on her neck? I saw it. I did it. Gu Si's voice was cold. Dr. North. Gu Si briefly told her and Pei Chuying's affairs. Dr. North raised his eyebrows. I remember she was engaged to Zhang Junlin. Who? Gu Si frowned. My brother. Dr. North nodded. I've vaguely heard of it, but I don't know if I've heard of it yet. She's dreaming. Her brother, Lu Ziwen, and Pei Chuying don't want to get along with each other. If her brother really likes Pei Chuying, she will be like the vicious sister-in-law in the TV series. Master, how can you and Pei Chuying be sisters? It's a long story. Dr. North said, my mother was my father's first love. Later, my father failed her and married Pei Chuying's mother. My mother carried me while she was away from home. In fact, my mother was the daughter of the Black Eagle when she was released. She fell in love with him and betrayed Black Eagle. After giving birth to me, she was afraid that she would suffer, so she threw me into the orphanage and worked as an employee in the orphanage, secretly accompanying me later. My father misunderstood her and forced her to death. He also hated me. After my identity was known to him, he had no father-daughter affection for me and felt that I was a shame. I have no relationship with the Pei family. Pei Chuying did help when little Cherry was born, and I will keep this kindness in mind. If her mother was killed by the Pei family, would she remain indifferent? As if seeing through Gu Si's doubts, Dr. North said, what my father did has nothing to do with Pei Chuying. This batch of gold can be regarded as repaying her favor. We don't owe each other. I don't like to owe others favors. End of this chapter. Shocking. She came back with a smaller version of the boss. Author, and knows. Chapter 187. Chapter 187. I love you, so I want to kill you. Gu Si thought for a while. Master, Pei Chuying, and I, may have a fierce battle. Dr. North blinked. A sister with blood ties and no emotions is just a familiar stranger in my eyes. Master is on your side. Gu Si said, Master, just sit back and watch. It was almost dawn when Ji Huan returned to the Black Hawk headquarters. There was a touch of satisfaction in his eyes. This was indeed a relief. He didn't mind being used as a tool by Zhang Junlin. After all, he was the one who was satisfied. But once he returned to Black Eagle and saw Zhang Junlin's investigation materials on the table, Ji Sun came back to his senses. I am really superficial, and I was let down by a beauty trap again. Zhang Junlin's information is perfect, like an impeccable file. The matter he wants to investigate has been a few years ago, and there is nothing suspicious about it. Ji-sun always felt that something was wrong, but he couldn't explain it. He went to Jang Junlin tonight to test the matter of gold, but he didn't get a result. But his suspicion of Jang Junlin was getting deeper and deeper. This is the first time that Jang Junlin has taken the initiative in this matter in so many years. Ji Xian tore up the documents and put them into the shredder. Is it an engagement? He sneered. Pei Qiuying and Jang Junlin were really well matched. The phone rang, and Ji Xian, an insider placed in Hualan Bank, said, "Mr. Ji, top secret news, Hualan Bank will have a gold reserve coming in tomorrow, exactly 300 kilograms." Ji Sun's heart skipped a beat. I know. After he hung up the phone, he squinted his eyes. After walking back and forth in the room for 10 minutes, Ji Xian dialed the phone. Hey, it's me. Hualan Bank has a gold reserve that will be put into the warehouse tomorrow, exactly 300 kilograms. Is the news accurate? Precise. New. Ji Huan hung up the phone and sneered, brother, whether he is a human or a ghost will eventually be revealed. After Pei Qiuying got the gold, the money was transferred to Dr. North's account. Large deposits are now very troublesome in every bank. It is necessary to check the origin. Gu Ci came to Hualan Bank early in the morning to replace Dr. North. To do business and make this large deposit, Pei Qiuying was very generous and gave him 500 million, which was several times higher than the value of gold. The money flowed through her account and was transferred to Dr. North's account without leakage, and Dr. North's money was clean. She is the major shareholder of Hualan Bank. Jang Junlin greeted her and the salesperson did not dare to ask any more questions. After the business ended, it was already 11 o'clock. Gu Ci called Jang Junlin, brother, let's have dinner together at noon. Okay, a sum of gold has been put into the treasury. After completing the formalities, let's have dinner together. Jang Junlin and Black Eagle's project meeting came to an end and they were in the lounge. He was playing with a pure black pen and looking at Ji-sun in the conference room through the blinds. He and several senior executives were discussing the progress of the project. Innocuous appearance. Jang Junlin rubbed his waist. When the little wolf cub pressed him in the hot spring and asked if he felt good, he didn't have such a graceful face. The secretary saw him sitting on pins and needles in the chair and changed his position several times. Mr. Jang, are you feeling uncomfortable? Jang Junlin's expression remained unchanged, his waist flashed. Ah! The secretary thought to himself. Mr. Jang has been exercising all year round and has such a good figure. He can also show off his waist. He hurriedly asked, do you want me to buy some plasters? Jang Junlin felt uncomfortable and embarrassed in some unspeakable place, and his waist was also very weak. The little wolf cub was full of energy and could work all night at a time. The secretary felt uneasy when he saw that he didn't speak. The boss was not only wearing a suit and leather shoes today, but also wearing a scarf. He never took off his scarf indoors. He looked like he was spending the winter. Although it was winter in City A, the indoor temperature was constant, so it was still relatively rare for someone to be so fully armed, and he also noticed that the boss touched his neck several times, as if he was injured. Zhang Qiang came in a hurry, his face flustered. Master, people are here to check the gold inventory, and there are also people from the National Security Bureau. Jang Junlin's eyes darkened and he held the pen in his hand. Where is the transport truck? Just entered the basement. Jang Junlin narrowed his eyes and asked his secretary, does the bank need to check for gold when it receives an email from the People's Bank of China? No, the secretary checked all his correspondence and emails. This is against the rules. If you want to check the gold storage, the bank will be notified a few days ago to prepare. The process will take 4 or 5 days. There is absolutely no possibility of random inspections. Hualan Bank will not collect the money until the person arrives at the bank. When I heard the news, Hualien was the #1 investment bank in the country, and its intelligence network spread all over the financial circle, so I would definitely get the news as soon as possible. Zhang Junlin pondered, turning the pen with one hand. Ji Sun leaned on the door and knocked on the door. "Mr. Zhang, come downstairs to check the gold reserves. If you don't mind joining us." He looked at Ji Sun's gentle and beautiful face. There was no smile in his eyes. "Okay." After Gu Xi came out from doing business, he saw Gu Ziu and Chen Fei, a total of 6 people accompanying them. Gu Ziu stood out among a group of elites in suits and ties. "Why did you come to the bank?" Gu Xi was curious. "Is it the National Security Bureau?" Gu Ziu's expression was extremely grim. He whispered, "Someone tipped off that the missing batch of gold will go into the Hualien Bank's vault today. The People's Bank of China and the National Security Bureau will join forces to investigate. Hualien Bank happened to have 300 kilograms of gold entering the vault today. I learned the news on the way and didn't have time to inform my uncle." Gu Xi was slightly startled. On the day Ziyu went out on the field, her brother came specifically to tell her that Ziyu should not go out on the field. He waited at Lanshan Villa until Ziyu came back safely before leaving. Although Zhang Junlin had a reasonable explanation, Gu Xi was still confused in her heart, but he was her brother, so Gu Xi didn't take it to heart. If the gold was really robbed by her brother, and both people got the stolen goods, Hualien Bank will surely be destroyed, and the entire financial circle will be reshuffled. "Where is the transport truck?" Gu Xi asked hurriedly. Gu Ziu frowned. "It's already in the basement and is being monitored." When he learned the news on the road, he knew that there was nothing he could do. This was a dead end. The gold had been under the surveillance of the national security since it entered the highway. Unless it disappeared out of thin air, everyone would definitely get the stolen goods together. While talking, Zhang Junlin and Ji Sun both arrived. Wearing glasses, Zhang Junlin stands out from the crowd, tall and handsome. Ji Sun beside him attracts everyone's attention. Zhang Junlin was surprised to see Gu Ziu. He didn't say much. After checking the documents, he took people to the warehouse to count the gold. Gu Xi frowned, wondering how his brother could escape this disaster in front of everyone. "Brother, I want to follow you." Zhang Junlin saw Gu Xi's worry. "Come on. She is a shareholder of Hualien Bank, and it is in compliance with the rules to follow her." Zhang Junlin handles everything in an orderly manner, checking iris, fingerprints, opening insurance locks, and counting the gold at the People's Bank of China. There must be no problem with the gold in the warehouse. The staff are still slowly conduct spot checks, which lasted for more than an hour. Ji Huan leaned to the side and looked at Zhang Junlin. End of this chapter. Shocking. She came back with a smaller version of the boss. Author, and knows. Chapter 188. Chapter 188, The Way is Higher and the Devil is Higher. Zhang Junlin is really calm. He is not a person who shows his emotions. The fluctuations in the mall have taken away all of Zhang Junlin's sharpness, and he has long been calm. He can accept all endings. In the flash of lightning, Gu Xi thought of countless ways to get out of trouble. How about creating a fire? She simulated the scene of a fire in her mind. Everyone had exited the bank. The transport truck was still in the basement and was being monitored. 300 kilograms of gold, not 3 kilograms. How could they change the situation? This dead end is just for my brother. The target is very clear, otherwise there would be no surprise inspection. After the treasury inspection, the inspector said, "Mr. Zhang, the number of gold reserves is correct and there is no problem. There is still a batch of gold in the treasury today. Can you take us to see it?" "Can." Gu Xi thought fervently, could the third master teleport over and hide all the gold? But it was Lu Ziwen who saw the blue sky, not the third master, and he couldn't teleport. How to break the situation. Zhang Junlin brought people to the transport truck. Several special forces soldiers under Chen Fei were keeping watch, as well as the Hualan security team, which was armed with live ammunition. Gu Zia was also unusually nervous. How can uncle escape this disaster? The car door opened, and the boxes filled with gold were moved down and opened one by one. The 6 boxes were all filled with gold bars. Ji Sun's eyes narrowed, but he didn't expect that the gold was really in Zhang Junlin's hands. Hit the black and the black, he openly stole gold at sea, how outrageous. This is what others say is Zhang Junlin, who is law-abiding and a gentleman. Gu Si and Gu Zia were already thinking about how to deal with the follow-up affairs of Zhang Junlin's imprisonment and minimize the losses. This was an unavoidable dead end. The inspector picked up a gold bar and turned it over. Everyone was surprised to find that the gold bar was not marked correctly and had no damage marks. As we all know, stolen gold has marks. The inspectors looked at each other, and one of them looked at Zhang Junlin. Gu Si breathed a sigh of relief. I couldn't help but look at Zhang Junlin. Was she too worried? Zhang Junlin smiled and explained calmly, this is a batch of gold transported from the Hualan Bank gold mine, exactly 300 kilograms. Ji Sun frowned, what went wrong? How did he cover up the mystery and launder this batch of gold? The inspector was also surprised. After checking every gold bar, there was no problem. The number was 300 kilograms. They were all unmarked. The procedures were complete and the origin was innocent. We have a surprise inspection today. Sorry to bother you, Mr. Zhang. We have to go to the central bank for inspection. I'll take my leave now. The inspector listened to the information coming from the earphones. The entire process is being monitored. There is no possibility of grafting others onto the scene, so we can only withdraw first. Go slowly, I won't send you far. Zhang Junlin's attitude was cold. Although they were official people, it was taboo not to say hello and make a surprise inspection. The inspector did not dare to blame Zhang Junlin for his cold attitude and led the people away in an orderly manner. Gu Zia waved his hand and took away Chen Fei and his soldiers. After Gu Zia got in the car, he called Chen Liangdong and said, there is no problem with the gold. I know, Chen Liangdong said, 10 minutes ago, Ji Dao returned 300 kilograms of gold to the Bank of Country M. This is a tip that was just received. Gu Zia was slightly annoyed, they are shouting to catch thieves, are they trying to trick us? Chen Liangdong took a deep breath, this matter is not that simple. You bring people back first. Okay, Gu Zia was extremely unhappy. He was a minor, and the surprise inspection should not have fallen on him. Unexpectedly, he received an assignment out of nowhere and asked him to bring Chen Fei to carry out the order. This order was not from Chen Liangdong. If he had selfish motives and told Zhang Junlin that the gold was fine, he wouldn't be able to escape. For the first time, Gu Zia felt how thrilling the three-party game between Black Hawk, Ji Dao, and Qiuan was. A war without smoke was resolved quietly. Zhang Junlin arranged for the vice president to handle the follow-up. Gu Si looked at the time and saw that it was already 2 o'clock. Although such a big incident in Hualan was resolved, Zhang Junlin must have a lot of things to deal with. Brother, I'll leave first. Go back. Zhang Junlin touched her temples, don't worry. Gu Si nodded. Zhang Junlin, like the third master, both had a reassuring aura, as if no matter what big problem happened, they could calmly solve it. After Gu Si left, Ji Sun, who had been silent for the whole time, chuckled and asked, Mr. Zhang, how did you wash this batch of gold in just 5 days? Ji Sun, what are you talking about? Zhang Junlin said calmly, this is gold from the mine. The procedures are complete. Unfortunately, the amount is the same as the lost gold. Ji Xian suddenly pinched Zhang Junlin's waist and pushed him back against the wall. He leaned forward, almost pressing on him, breathing close at hand. Yesterday, I got all the money from Hualan Bank. According to the gold mine information, the gold mine has not produced any output in the past 3 months. Mr. Zhang, you lie without blinking an eye. Zhang Junlin chuckled, why didn't you expose my lie just now? Ji Sun also had a smile in his eyes, so, in order to repay me, why don't you tell Mr. Zhang where the batch of gold went, and I also have to report it, right? This matter has made us Black Eagle very passive. Zhang Junlin clicked on his cell phone, look at the phone. What? Have a look. Ji Sun frowned, turned on his phone, and saw a message from the Black Eagle headquarters. The extremely powerful Pei Chuying had returned the gold to the Bank of Country M. This message was sent to him 10 minutes ago. Ji Sun muted and kept paying attention. The situation developed and the information was not seen in time. Ji Sun, do you understand? This is a game of Ji Dao, and this batch of gold has been in their hands from beginning to end. Zhang Junlin said meaningfully, you are suspecting the wrong person. How is that possible? Ji Xian was slightly startled. Black Eagle also had insiders in the Jidao. Pei Chuying was worried about this matter. It couldn't be in the hands of the Jidao. If I take the gold, what will I do for Pei Chuying? It's unnecessary. Jidao and Hualan already cooperate very closely. Selling it to you can still be a favor, Zhang Junlin asked lightly. Besides, if I take it, why did he return it to the Bank of Country M for nothing? Ziyu is in Qiuan. I will definitely give it to Ziyu and let him make meritorious deeds. Ji Huan and Lu Ziwen also discussed the whereabouts of the gold. Zhang Junlin indeed had no need to steal the gold. It was unnecessary and caused a lot of trouble. The matter was considered to be over, but Ji Huan had doubts in his heart. Zhang Junlin put his finger on Ji Sun's waist and abdomen, get out of the way. Ji Sun narrowed his eyes and looked at Mr. Jiang's slender fingers. I'm not feeling well. Zhang Junlin's face darkened and turned a little red. Ji Sun frowned and put a hand on his forehead. Zhang Junlin had a fever. Ji Sun was surprised, you have a fever. Zhang Junlin kicked him away, you have the nerve to ask me to wear a t-shirt, but you turn a deaf ear to it. Whose fault is this? End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Shocking. She came back with a smaller version of the boss. Author, and knows. Chapter 189. Chapter 189. The arrogant third young master. Ji Xian thought that they had soaked in the hot spring together last night, and a little bit of it was his fault. He quickly changed his face and pretended to be a grandson. Brother, don't be angry. I won't do it next time. Zhang Junlin sneered, saying this was just a lie to him. He would always have a weird habit of not wearing it if he didn't do it next time. It's all my fault that my brother is too charming. I am young and energetic and can't control it, Ji Sun said without blushing. Are you feeling uncomfortable? Zhang Junlin looked at him speechlessly, but his eyes were like seduction. He was obviously a very abstinent man, but Ji Sun always felt that when Zhang Junlin looked at him, he was always saying, come on, Ji Sun, come to the grass. Me. Ji Sun chuckled lightly, and suddenly lowered his eyebrows, looking a little good and a little gloomy. Brother, you always use beauty traps to fool me, isn't it appropriate? Zhang Junlin looked at his devilish smile, and the little wolf cub knew everything in his heart. He also smiled and patted Ji Sun's face. Have I fooled you? We had with me in the hot spring, and as soon as we got out of bed, he went to report me for hiding gold. He hit me off guard. Ji Sun, you are so looking forward to it, let me fall into the dust and be slaughtered by you. Isn't it possible? Ji Xian looked at him with excitement. Zhang Junlin pointed at the door expressionlessly, get out. On the way home, Gu Ci kept thinking that the batch of gold that Pei Chuying gave to the Bank of Country M was taken from her master and was gold from more than 10 years ago. Where did the lost gold go? Is my brother's batch of gold really legal? Black Hawk, Jai Kuoan, in the three-party game, Pei Chuying won in the end. Someone must have lied and tricked everyone into applauding. Gu Ci closed her eyes and replayed all the details of the day Zhang Junlin came home frame by frame. She had a very good memory and did not miss any details. My brother must have stolen the gold, but what did he want to do? Has he calculated that someone is reporting him and temporarily replaced the gold? If he hadn't been replaced, Hualan Bank would have been in catastrophe. This seemed like a calm matter, but upon closer inspection, it turned out to be traps and dangers. One wrong step and you will be in doom. When Gu Ci returned home, Ziyu hadn't come back yet. When Gu Ci was upset, she was playing with her flowers in the garden. The vines had grown very beautifully and they would bloom beautifully in flower season. It was already winter and the weather was a bit cold. Cold. She sat in the garden and her mind was empty. Once her mind was empty, Lu Ziwen would silently occupy all her senses and memories. Gu Ci laughed to herself, she was obsessed with Lu Ziwen, how could she stop it? Gu Ci sent a message to Li Zhang. Gu Ci, how was Li Zhang and Lu Ziwen's training? Li Zhang replied to her 3 videos after 3 minutes, all of which were of Lu Ziwen training, and a video of him competing with the driver. In the picture, Mr. Lu was still sharp and confident. She missed Lu Ziwen. Li Zhang also sent a few pictures, taken by photographers from around the world, which can be used as still photos. His camera sense is very good, not inferior to that of male celebrities. Gu Ci was moved when he saw the still photos. In 1 week, she will be able to watch Lu Ziwen's game. Gu Ci, Li Zhang, Pei Chuying and Third Master are lovers. Li Zhang, how is that possible? Miss Gu Ci, don't listen to the rumors. It's absolutely impossible. The Third Master is devoted to his career and has no love. Gu Ci, oh. Li Zhang, really? Gu Ci, where is the third young master? Li Zhang, third young master, isn't this known to everyone? He likes you. Gu Ci, no one has chased him. He is so popular, he is the white moonlight of girls all over the world. Apart from racing, there are no scandals. Li Zhang, the third young master is quite miserable. He has to train as soon as he opens his eyes. During the training camp, he trains all day long. If the competition cycle is not so intensive, he will go on vacation. But when he goes on vacation, he also plays racing with others and relaxes at night. Well, the third master is online now. The third master doesn't like to be in contact with others, and if he has an illegitimate fan, he will notice it, making it difficult for others to get close to him. Therefore, he really doesn't have any romantic news. There are some gossips, which are definitely black. Gu Ci looked at this paragraph and thought that Lu Ziwen's life during the day was quite monotonous, but the third master's life at night seemed to be quite monotonous as well. Each of them only had half the time, and they all used it to deal with the most important things in their lives. Gu Ci, is he happy recently? Li Zhang, Miss Gu Ci, are you asking the third young master or the third master? Gu Ci, third young master. Li Zhang, in terms of daily training, there is no difference. Gu Ci was also relieved, no matter what happened, he was waiting for him to end this game with peace of mind. Li Zhang lowered his head and was messaging Gu Ci. Lu Ziwen finished training, took off his helmet and came over. The assistant took the helmet and handed him a towel. Lu Ziwen simply wiped his sweat. What are you talking about? He drank a bottle of water in one breath. Li Zhang didn't dare to hide it, Miss Gu Ci is looking for me. Lu Ziwen's expression remained unchanged as he threw the bottle into the trash can and stretched out his hand, Give me the phone. Li Jiang was troubled. Third young master, this is my privacy. Lu Ziwen's eyes darkened. Li Jiang's bones softened first, and he handed him the phone. Lu Ziwen glanced at the chat history. Gu Si would ask Li Jiang about Lu Ziwen's current situation every day, or ask for photos or videos. No wonder Li Jiang was always on the sidelines. Taking the mobile phone to record the video, Lu Ziwen curled his lips slightly and returned the phone to Li Jiang. Lu Ziwen spoke in a rude tone, "Why are you so stupid? You don't know how to ask her how she is doing? Do you know how to chat?" Li Jiang blurted out, "I know what Miss Gu Si is doing now. I don't feel." Lu Ziwen came over with a dagger, and Li Jiang smiled and said, "I'm suddenly interested again." It was really difficult for him. He had to watch the three of them in the shuro field, and he had to act as a microphone and eat dog food. The bodyguard captain who sleeps the least and is the most miserable in the world is none other than him. He touched his still thick hair and said, "Third young master, one day I will be bald and die suddenly." Lu Ziwen. When Zhang Junlin came, Gu Ziu had not yet returned home. Gu Si was picking vegetables in the yard and planning to make vegetable soup. Zhang Junlin came, still dressed as he was at the bank, wearing a light gray scarf. Gu Si thought to herself, "It's over. She wants to make 2 meals, and if she cooks them, her brother may not appreciate her." "Brother, do you want to have dinner?" Zhang Junlin was silent for a moment, thinking of Gu Si and Gu Ziu's craftsmanship. "I've eaten it." "Okay." Gu Si stopped making vegetable soup and took out bread and milk as her dinner. Zhang Junlin watched her eating bread and drinking milk. "Please ask the hourly worker to cook." Gu Si secretly thought, "Brother, if you don't come, I plan to cook." Ziyu doesn't like it. She didn't intend to go around in circles with Zhang Junlin. Although the early winter was cold, the room was as warm as spring. Gu Si made tea and invited Zhang Junlin to drink it together. End of this chapter. Shocking. She came back with a smaller version of the boss. Author, and knows. Chapter 190. Chapter 190 Social Death and Embarrassment. Pei Chuying came to Dr. North to take away a batch of gold from her. The gold she handed over was more than 10 years ago. "Brother, was it you who stole the gold?" "I also hope that Ziyasai will keep this matter secret and not tell anyone, including Ziyu." Zhang Junlin said, "Ziyasai is too smart. I know I can't hide it from you. Concern would lead to chaos that night. I came to ask about Ziyu. That exposed my identity. You know the origin of Pei Chuying's gold, so it's not difficult to guess that I'm behind the scenes." Gu Si never thought about telling Gu Ziu and Lu Ziwen about this. This is an eternal problem. Her husband, son, and brother are all mortal enemies of each other. Who should she help? "Brother, what do you want with this gold?" Gu Si was smart. "Qiuan will bear full responsibility for losing this gold. Do you want Chen Liangdong to be transferred, but he blocks your way? Hualan Bank is an investment bank. What did it do, and was it investigated by Chen Liangdong?" It was too hot in the room. Zhang Junlin tugged on his scarf slightly and drank tea calmly. Hualan Bank and Country M Bank signed several contracts 3 years ago. The vice president at the time was plotted and stepped into a trap. A loophole was exploited by the Bank of Country M. These contracts caused Hualan Bank to suffer heavy losses, so I planned to exchange this gold with them and had no choice but to take risks. Gu Si went over Zhang Junlin's words in her mind and realized that Zhang Junlin had made it up to deceive her. This might be the reason, and there must be something wrong with the contract. Hualan is an investment bank, and if it makes money, it loses money. If you lose money on these contracts, you can easily make it back elsewhere. Zhang Junlin's rhetoric could not be concealed from Gu Si, who knew financial transactions and rules well. The National Security Bureau is following closely. If my guess is correct, the gold is indeed going to Hualan Bank's vault today. Why was it temporarily transferred? Zhang Junlin frowned slightly and leaned forward to pour the tea. The scarf that had been wrapped around his neck fell down. He held the tea and smelled it, covering the coldness in his eyes. This gold is indeed going to China Lanjingku. But last night, Ji Sun reported to the National Security Bureau, so I had to change him temporarily. Gu Si, Ji Sun informed. He's crazy. Zhang Junlin chuckled and put down his teacup. Hualin and Black Eagle's meeting today was at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. He changed the time in the middle of the night, so I became suspicious. I didn't receive any news at that time, so I ordered someone to exchange gold to prevent any unexpected events. During the meeting this morning, I received a tip and knew that Ji Xian was waiting for me. The little wolf cub should enjoy it, get out of bed, and show no mercy when it's time to stab him. Why? Gu Si looked away from Zhang Junlin's neck. Zhang Junlin sounded calm, but Gu Si could hear the danger. As long as there is a mistake in one link and this batch of gold is sent to Hualin Bank, Zhang Junlin will face a prison sentence. Zhang Junlin said, Black Hawk, the two major financial organizations in the world, have been bitter rivals for many years. They are the largest companies in the long-short game. They are equally powerful and have a complicated network of relationships. Behind them are not only financial transactions, but also involve a lot of black areas and gray areas. Industry. Black Hawk's focus is on country M and Europe, and it looks down upon the Asian market, often taking away wealth from the Asian market. In the past 5 years, the Asian financial market has developed rapidly and is in the global market. The importance of the bank has increased year by year, and Black Hawk's focus has shifted to the Asian market. However, Jideo has been operating for many years, and it is not easy for them to break through. Jideo and Hualin Bank have close ties and support each other. Black Hawk and I have had issues and have served successively. The president of Black Hawk Asia had been shut down in communication with Hualin Bank until Ji Xian appeared. If Ji Xian wanted to secure the Black Hawk Asia department within a year, he had to get the market from Jideo. Share. Zhang Junlin paused and said, I have a special reason and don't want to see this scene. If Ji Sun wants to take a shortcut, he will step on my corpse to get to the top. After Ji Huan came to City A, Hualin and Black Eagle had a very close cooperation. Zhang Junlin licked his lips. The high fever made his lips dry. He chuckled and said, when fishing, you must put bait. Gu Si. This scene gave Gu Si a feeling that Zhang Junlin was unfamiliar and sinister. In her heart, her brother had always been an upright man. Brother, are you not feeling well? A little feverish. Gu Si stood up and took the thermometer gun. It was 39 degrees. She frowned slightly, took the medicine box and took out the antipyrexia needle. Zhang Junlin said, no need. Listen to the doctor. Gu Si couldn't help but grabbed his arm and said, take off your clothes. Zhang Junlin looked embarrassed, but Gu Si was fierce and cold, so he had to compromise. He took off his scarf, untied his clothes, and exposed his arms. He wore a vest under his shirt, but it couldn't cover his neck to his collarbone. Piles of bite marks, even on his arms. Gu Si saw the bite marks on his neck when his scarf fell, and finally understood why her brother had to wear a scarf even when the temperature was constant indoors. This was in a bank, and being seen by his subordinates really undermined his brother's dignity. Unexpectedly, it would be even more exciting if the clothes were taken off. The neck and collarbone are densely covered with bite marks. However, he was very serious and wore a pair of glasses. He looked very abstinent and had a strong sense of contrast. The room is quiet and the sparrows are silent. Gu Si regretted asking Zhang Junlin to take off his clothes. If he had known that she asked her brother to take off his pants and pierce his buttocks, it might not have been so embarrassing. Ji Huan is really wild and fierce. Is he a dog? This trace will not disappear within a week. Zhang Junlin glanced down, his expression unchanged, and his ears were blood red, betraying his embarrassment. Gu Si saw the tooth marks on his arm and couldn't bear it. Why are you biting your arm? Zhang Junlin smiled, sister, you can skip this topic. Gu Si rubbed alcohol on him and gave him an injection. When the needle went in, Gu Si said, sister-in-law is quite wild. Zhang Junlin looked at his eyes and his nose looked at his heart, and he said humbly, don't imitate me. Gu Si, brother, as long as you are not embarrassed, others will be embarrassed, right? Wait a minute, brother, why didn't you deny the title of sister-in-law? Unfortunately, Gu Zia came back at this time. Gu Zia was very tired today. He went out for a run. When he came back, he worked endlessly and came in with a depressed face. Gu Si and Zhang Junlin both looked over, and Gu Zia couldn't see Zhang Junlin's embarrassment behind the lenses. He blinked and blurted out, is brother taking the rabies vaccine? Gu Si. Gu Zia didn't notice Zhang Junlin's death at all, and pointed at his neck, was he bitten by a dog? Zhang Junlin. Gu Si suppressed a smile, well, she couldn't be embarrassed alone. Zhang Junlin's ears were almost bleeding. After Gu Si took out the needle, he quickly put on his clothes and said expressionlessly, I was bitten by an insect. End of this chapter.